try to do all. All right. Um, we are diving into visual filters with Logos Bible software. Unlike Greek, Hebrew is a little bit more nuanced with its verbs. And let's wait until a little bit until people start coming through. And we're going to get right into this wonderful topic that we are going to discuss more of biblical Hebrew. Let's go to Joshua. All right. Let's get going. All right. We are in Logos Bible software, and I have a hefty topic to talk about, and that is we're gonna do visual filters with Hebrew, but I need to explain some verbs here, but before we really get into it. And I'm going to give you some resources where you can find out more information about all these verbs. So a lot of the stuff is gonna come from a mix between a guy by the name of Mark Furtado and Michael Heiser. And I'm gonna share with you their resources and where you can just fact check everything that I'm going through. So the first verb that we're gonna talk about is the call or qual. People pronounce it differently. Um, Now the call is a simple past. So what I'm going to do is as I describe each one of these verbs, I'm going to do them in the visual filter. So we're going to come down here. We're going to make a new visual filter. And in this visual filter, we are going to call it visual filter Hebrew verbs. Let's change this because we don't necessarily need this in all our Bibles. I'm gonna just make this for the ESV, where we're gonna now I can limit. Now here's the also thing that you can do, which may be helpful, because I don't need to know. I can list all passages, or I just want to list. This will show up only from Genesis to Malachi, because that's really all I need this filter to work for. I can either do that, or I can just say Old Testament. And what this does is that it just doesn't do any extra work from. So we're going to click at, but we need to make sure that we are in more. So now we are gonna now over here, what I want to do is I want to be in Hebrew. Now I have here, and I have my verb, and now it's going to show up. Now, all I'm really looking for, so you have some options. You have part of speech here, the stem. We covered, now we're only going to cover 7. There's a bunch of nuanced stems that exist that hardly ever occur, so we're really not going to get into it. And this word is tense, aspect, and mood. So we're not going to get into this. We can probably get into it a little bit later, that there's some resources out there that can help you more, and I'm going to point you out to this. But so there's that person. We can go to gender, number. So this is dual is not a number sense that you're going to find in Hebrew. It's either going to be, it can be either masculine or feminine. It can be plural or singular. The state can, this is morely for nouns. So all we want to do is we just want to do a simple morph search, and let's just say we want this to be, we're going to have a color. We typically want to stay away from, so we typically want to stay away from yellow as much as possible, because that's going to come up with your searches. It's going to go, and it's going to highlight. So we're going to choose red. Now we're going to come over here. So, here. So now we're in this passage, and all of the red some of these, oh, it just came up with the verbs. Gotcha. Um, uh, always double check your work. Always double check your work so it doesn't. So all we're gonna do, we are gonna do the call. Now what's gonna happen here is it's gonna show up with only the call. So the call is a past tense. So the Lord said. All it's saying at some point in the past to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. So it's a past event. That's all the call really does is it describes the past event. Now this can change. It's normally a factative. So this would change for instance is if it was like here, it's a perfect tense. Perfect implies a completed event, something in the past. A imperfect would be ongoing. Um, Let me show you some things of some resources that morely the resource that I'm pulling from is this one right here. Um, Let me go up here to the table of contents so you can actually see this. These are the two resources that I think that are going to be helpful. So this is a Logos mobile education course by Mark Furtado, and this is an outstanding course. If you want to learn Hebrew, this is the course that you need to grab. And down here, he's got these verbs. He gets into the perfect. So the gal perfect. He gets into a little bit. He talks about the usage of it and a lot of great information. Its basic form. He gets into the accenting. A lot. How it changes in the singular, the plural, and what I think that you're going to be more, but the usage of the call perfect, and he goes into how the call perfect is used and how he talks about the definite perfect, and that's where we're pulling from with this as being a simple past. And he gets into a stated perfect of that the usage of stated verbs expressing a state of being. For instance, he is old, he is young. And if you're using a stated verb, then that it's going to be in the present tense. And as we're walking through it, and this is what the call does. And the call stem is the most basic stem. It occurs 69% of the time. 69% of the time. If you wanted to do a search, so say for instance, I want to do a search, and I wanted to just to double check this. Hey, how true is this? What you would do is I'm going to come here. yeah, let's kind of drag this over here. And what I want to show you, so what I would do, so I'm gonna do a Bible, and I'm gonna do a morph search and I don't want Greek, I want Hebrew, and I want a verb, and all I'm gonna do is search the verbs. That's all I'm gonna do. And so every verb in the Old Testament is going to come up here. So I'm going to do analysis here, and this is where I can start to categorize. Say I want all of, so what you see here is every verb has also been highlighted with a yellow, and the reason why these change from yellow to orange be because if you have red on top of yellow, that gives you orange. It's taking a little while to go through everything. So until that kind of shows up there, where we're going to kind of come over here. So that's the simple past. And our next one is what's called as the nifal. And the nifal, it's the passive of the call. So it's often used as a passive. It can be a reflexive. So say for instance that I want the word, so say for instance the phrase to fight. In the call it would be fought or fighting, but in the nifal that it becomes to fight oneself. Now when there's no call, it acts as a simple past. So here's one of the tools of the morphology charts. So I'm going to come over here. Let's double check this. That still ain't there. So we're going to go into tools and we're going to go morphology. And I'm going to click on here. So where the morphology charts is helpful, in this case, it shows every occasion of every step. Now, I want to copy something else. I want another word to go in that place. Here we go. here's what we're going to do. And what I want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if I N N. There we go. Here's what we're going to do. Since that's not working for us very well. Let's just say I'm just going to pick any word. Let's just say this word right here that we're going to pick. And we're going to go into here. We're going to copy the text. Let me see if there's a way just to go from here. Search inline. There doesn't seem to be a way. Let's try this. That's not. So there we go. We're going to do that one right there. So where it tells me it's a participle, it's an infinitive, it's an imperfect, and it's a perfect. So these are the various ways that it can kind of come out. And it tells me singular, it's in the PL. So this gives me a lot of the options that I might be looking for. Here we are. So, of all the verb combinations, this is going back to of all the verb combinations, here is every single usage of every single verb and how many times it occurs. So if I divide, so say for instance, I divide my call 130 divided by total number of verbs, 116. Yeah, it's close to what he had talked about. It's 70%. So yeah. So let's kind of come over here, and now we're back over here. So these are the various ways that our NIFAL can show up. Now here is the best way to get this is look towards your more technical commentaries, and your more technical commentaries are your Word Biblical Commentary, your NICOT. Those commentaries like that are going to give you really what you're looking for. Now let's kind of go into, now we're going to create the visual filter for it. So we're now going to go into at, we have a verb where we're already in the Logos Hebrew, and we want to search for the nifal. And we're going to give this a color. We're going to give it a color of purple. Now, what we're also going to do is close that out. So it shouldn't be uncommon. So I was going to tell you it shouldn't be uncommon for us not to find a whole lot of nin hifals in the biblical passage because it makes a very small number, 6%. But we do have one here. And here's the nin nifal. It's a perfect, and we got some options here. So it says, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to your fathers. So our question that we need to ask is this a passive? Is this a reflexive? Or is this an issue where it's just a simple past? If I searched for this and I would come into here and say, for instance, I'm going to come into here and I'm going to copy this. And if I were to copy this into the morphology chart, it would not surprise me if there was not an equivalent So let's kind of look at our word here. And the word is Sheen, Bait, Iron. So those are the three characters. So I'm looking for a Sheen, a Bait. That's not the one I want. So what happens? I'm going to click this Show Empty. There we go. Sheen, Bait, Iron. So what I'm looking for is our word. Sheen, Bait, Iron. Come back over here and make sure that we have the exact word. So I'm going to click on here and see what it brings up to me. Sheen Bait Iron, it says it's a 1 to swear to make a statement. So when I'm coming in here, I know that it's Sheen Bait Iron to swear to make a statement. No. Right here. This is the one we want. So it comes in the nifal. Hifil does not occur in the call. And so in that sense that this is probably best to be translated, it does not show up in the call. So the only way this verb occurs is in the nifal. So it's in that sense, it's a simple past. It's not a reflexive or anything like that. Um, Now our next word is, and when we're coming over here, uh, we're going to come over here, and when we look at the definition, I'm going to go back and forth for resources. So we come up into here and we see the nifl, and we go down here, passive, reflexive. Um, it gets into the meaning more. He gets more into the meaning here than he does the qual. Now, I'm also going to point you to this other resource. Very valuable resource. A guy by the name of Michael Heiser. This is one you need in your library. This is a very, the stuff he goes in here is just phenomenal. What he's going to do in these, he's going to talk more about the nuances of these verbs than you're going to get in a whole lot of other stuff. This is an invaluable resource. I'm just going to show you what he's got in just the verbs. This is all on verbs. He gets into the nifl, the pl, which it's going to cover a lot of the nuanced stuff that you want to really go through and really understand. Really understand as you're studying these various passages. All right. So this is a resource you're gonna need and you're gonna use. So uh, so this is an inhibit. Next is what's called as the PL. The PL is about 9%. It's the PL is a cause of change, or it's a cause of a state. Normally, how I look at this is it's a there's going to be some causative element to it, and it's going to cause a change in identity or cause something to exist. What's really great, let's go into here into Futato. And Futato is going to bring this stuff up very, very good. If we go down here to the PL here, when he gets into the meaning, a causing of a state, we call this factative. Factative simply means causing of a state of being. For example, in the call, that would be Nadal, means great. In the PL, Nadal means to make great. So it has this causative, has a causative element to it. Michael Heiser brings up, he's got this section on the PL, which is very, very good. He gets into the meanings and the nuances of the PL. And he says it's a simple active, causative factive, what he is talking about, causative resultive, and a causative iterative, and a denominative. He's going to get more. What I love about the Michael Heiser this course here. He gets into more nuanced stuff, and he's going to give you some different examples of how to think of this. So let's make our filter. Our filter over here, and we're going to have, let's drag this over, and we're still in so we're going to go into at. We got a verb, and we want the PL. So we're going to use this just for the PL. So the PL is going to, and we're going to go into a color. So we're already in purple. So we're going to go into pink. And we're also going to do another morph. And I want PL. PL. Let's see how they. This one right here. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to have a different type of highlight because I know, because they are related. So I'm just going to do a double underline. So if I see a double underline, I know that that's going to be the PL. So here's the PL. So the PL here, both the words commanded is in the PL stem. And there's a connection between what God had commanded Moses and what God had commanded Joshua. They're both in the PL. So our question is that we want to really wrestle with, how are we to understand this given what we know from here, from so and referring to what Michael Heiser says about the PL stem and the difference nuances of the PL stem. It can be a causative to bring about a state. So here's my recommendation. Because there's a lot of different types of things, this is where you want to answer those questions in your commentaries. Because especially if you're not as familiar with Hebrew, this can be very challenging, and you can get off on some bad interpretations. Rely on the scholars to give you what you don't know. Now, we know this is causing some type of state. So all these are, the pink is the one, are the ones in the PL stem, and you just want to double check. So if I come into here, and yeah, but what's different is that because we've tagged all PL stems, some are going to show up that are participles, like here, like this. This is more of the what we're looking for is that just as I have promised. So he in a sense that his identity almost has changed when God made the promise to Moses. Just the promise to him, just as he has given Moses. So, in one sense, that his position has changed. He hasn't done anything. God changed it for him. This when we go into the book of Genesis chapter 1, that we see some similar things going on. Genesis 1, and what we're going to see in the book of Genesis 1, God was hovering over the, you see all these words, boom, boom. Here is in the PL, God was hovering over the face. And then when you get more into here, we come over here into our, so so this word here that's in the nin hifal, that we would have to really go through that, but these can be high, and God blessed them, saying be fruitful. So in this sense, God's blessing, that their state had changed in from not being fruitful to the command that God to be fruitful. So God gives them this blessing, and it's in the PL stem. It's in the PL stem. Once again, always double check. Use your use the brain that God has given you, but also look at what the scholars have to say about the usage of blessed here in the PL stem. Next, the pual is the passive of the PPL. Those are so rare, but let's just do a search. We're going to do a search over here. And we're going, and what I want to do is I'm going to do a Bible search. And in this search, I'm going to do a verb. I don't want Greek. I want Hebrew. And I want a verb. And I want it in the pual. This thing right here. I'm just going to search for that. See where there's an occasion where that comes up and where we're going to go to that passage. So, there are 43 verses, 431 verses in the pual. And it's in the Genesis passage. So when we go to chapter 2, going to come down here to chapter 2, and this word finish is in the pual. So it's a change of state. So everything's finished. So the state of the earth had been changed, or God had caused the earth to exist, and he was done. Next is the hifil and the hofal. We're gonna go. I got some stuff over here, but the hifil and the hofal. And we're gonna come over here, and it's gonna give us the meaning of the hifil. In terms of meaning, a frequent meaning of the hifil is a causing of an action, whereas the PL is causing of a state. The hifil is a causing of an action. For example, the verb the qual means to hear. In the hifil, it means to cause to hear. So something. So there's this forcible element that is going to happen. So this forcible element that's going to happen. Um, so that's what it shows up there. Also over here, let's see what he's got some important things about he so he's got the hifil, so he's got so many things here that once again this has a causative element. Um, the nuances of the hifil: simple causative, a resultive. So he gets into the hifil stem here. Now, we're going to do a visual filter. So we're going to do a filter with the hifil. And of course, we're going to go into at v. We're here already in our Hebrew, and we got the hifil right here. Now I'm going to have not pink, I'm going to have another color to illustrate what we have. Pink, so we're going to use orange. So now what, so our orange is, so let's look at our Joshua passage. See if there's anything in orange that comes up. Yeah, causing of an action. So he's saying that his action, God is going to cause him to be successful. God is going to cause him to inherit the land. God did this, that God, so the causative of the action of God not leaving. I want to pull up 2 Samuel chapter 11. And where it talks about David's sin with Bathsheba. I want to go down here. David sent Joab and the servants with him, and they ravaged the Amorites. It happened on late afternoon. David arose from the couch and walked to the roof. He saw on the roof a woman bathing, and David sent and inquired about the woman. Interesting. And this word, I want to look this word for took. So this word here, and I'm not. I just wanted to know if it was in the hifil, but it's not. It's in the call. But the word means to grab, to say. So in the sense that he forced his way upon her. Um. So yeah, just looking at some of these little new nuances, but this causing that they have been caused to ravage the Amorites. So let's go back to Joshua and take a look at it. So Joshua over here. Now we also have this other non. So this is the hifil. So this is going to be that causative element, but we also have something called the hofal. And the hofal is the passive of the qual, and the hifil is also a when there is no qual, that it forms as a simple past when no qual is available. And you would look into the morphology charts to see if there was another qual. So we're going to go in, we're going to add our hofal. So we're going to go at, I got a verb here, and we have the hofal. And let's have a highlight of, let's do inline pointers. I'm going to go into Joshua and see if one happens to show in our passage. Let's see. Let's do a search here and see what we find. So we're going to search for a passage that has the, oh, here it is. Here we do, right here. Death. So shall put him to death. So whatever you command him shall be put to death. So this is in Joshua, later passages in Joshua. Let's see if we can find a better one that's gonna, I want to do not Greek, I want Hebrew, I want a verb, and I want the hofal. And I'm going to search for passages that have a hofal in them. So in Genesis, let's go back to our Genesis passage, and this is something very important. So a passive is not what you do, but what is done to you. So in Genesis, it uses this word in Genesis 1:2. The earth, oh, that's just a regular verb. I want the hofal. Genesis, fine. go back to our Joshua passage and we know that there was a whole fall down here. Shall be put, there we go, shall be put to death. Now, always, you want to make sure that you read the context, because context is king. But this word death is in the Hophal. And we already know that that the Hophal is not a very common. So if I choose to use a less common form of a passive, there's a reason. So there was a causative action. So God is expecting for a causative, for them to forcibly put them to death. So whoever rebels against your commandment and disobeys your words, whatever you command him shall be put to death. So God is saying that he will cause those who disobey Joshua to die. There's this causative element to what is going on, or he's going to cause, so he's going to be put to death, and it's going to be something done to that person that disobeys God or disobeys Joshua's words. Our last one is the hitpotail. Now the hitpotail. The hitpotail here is, it's going to give us some, Futato is going to give us some very important information about the hitpotail. The hitpotail here, the hitpotail, it can either be reflexive, a repeated action, or a simple action. So those are the three ways. Heiser brings up once again, that this Heiser resource, you really want to get this resource is if you don't have it. It is a very invaluable resource that if you're studying. So let's see what he's, here we are. The usage of the hitpotail. Now, he gets into an example, the meaning of the hitpotail. It is a reflexive, direct reflexive, reciprocal reflexive, and frequentative. So he gets into depth to what he means here. So in here that he says the subject would perform the action of the verb and would also undergo the action in some way. The action would come back. So this is your most classical view of the reflexive, and he has a passage here, 1 Kings 1:5. And in 1 Kings 1:5, that he's saying that this is a direct reflexive. Now, he goes on, another nuance would be the reciprocal. In this case, the subject, so he's talking about that this is in a plural. So whereas one was the action of one person, the direct reflexive, the reciprocal reflexive is done by a group, performs and undergoes the action. So the major difference, one is done by one person, the other one is done by a group of people. And the frequentative, we're going to, so you have an ongoing action that is going on. something that happens frequently. And this is where we're talking about this repeated action. Next, so now we are going to create our visual filter, and we're going to create something with the hit pile. So we're going to have our @ symbol, our verb, and lastly, that's not the one. I believe this is. So I would think it would be this one right here. Here's what I want to do. So I know I have this right. Um, and we have a verb, and I want to search. I would say it's that one. That is 750 verses. So the one that we're going to be looking for is actually going to be have more verses. I don't think it's this at all. Yeah. Sorry, other one. It's this one right here. Yeah. Now we are going to and it does give you a little bit of an explanation. By hovering over here, it says in biblical Hebrew, the stem refers to a relationship of verb subject to the action. That is, the stem conveys grammatical voice. The hit pile is the reflexive counterpart of the PL stem. With the reflexive form, the subject of the verb acts upon the respect. The PL stem expresses the bringing of the state. The object of the PL verb suffers the effect. In the sentence, Bob flies the plane, the direct object plane is da 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 da. The hit pile would be illustrated by Bob's flying the plane himself, a reflexive sense. So the major thing here is yeah. So now we're going to add our little probably a nuance. So we're going to come down here. I don't think we have green. No. So now we're going to be looking at our passage in Joshua and see what kind of comes out. Sorry for this taking exceedingly long, but I do have a lot of windows open, and that's part of the reason why it's taken so long. There we go. So let's see what we have. Of course, it has to. Here we are. Here's one. So no man. I don't even know why it does this. It can be irritating. So he's saying no man will be able to stand. Now we know that this will, so, and we know that this verb has a reflexive element. So that we would take that and try to understand what he is getting at here. There we go. Repeated action. So what he's saying here, and the nuance that's brought about in the hit pile is no person is going to be able to continually to stand before you. So in this sense, he's always going to be successful. I had talked about some showing you some resources, and that's what I want to do now before I close this out. So this one right here is the grammar by Mark Furtado. If you get this, then you don't need his grammar. The mobile education course is probably a abridged version of his grammar. He also has the lectures of his grammar all out there, so just keep that in mind. This next one by Heiser is also one I had used and referenced. This is a resource that you need to have in your library. Especially if you're working with Hebrew and you're new to it, just go through this and you're going to get, it's well worth it. Next is a course, the stuff, Old Testament exegesis, understanding and applying. This is, this is another wonderful. He gets into some very nuanced stuff. He gets into verbless clauses that in and of itself is worth it, and the nuances of what's happening with verbless clauses. I mean, this is a wonderful, wonderful resource. I'm going to point out some Hebrew grammars. I believe that this is the one by, yes, Bruce Waltke. His grammar is, the more you dive into Hebrew, that you're going to need more than just the simple stuff that I gave you. And his grammar here, he gets into a lot of things of the various stems are all here. So he gets into them. More of what's going on with them. So he also in the call and the call stems. So he's getting into more into some of what these other grammars. Basics of Biblical Hebrew, I think, is the name of this one. Yes. This is a wonderful book by Pratico and Van Pelt. I found using this book to learn Hebrew was just too much. But as a reference, it works a lot the same as Mounce does. So this is a counterpoint for biblical Mounce's biblical Greek, and Prodigal and Van Pelt is the counterpart to the biblical Hebrew. Um, Biblical Hebrew for the rest of us. This I should have pointed this out in the so there's a Hebrew for the rest of us and a Greek for the rest of us. What these books are designed to do is to give you functional understanding of the languages. And that can be very helpful when you are first learning. So when I went to seminary, uh, um, so when I took Greek, they had me to buy the uh, Greek for the rest of us as well as the grammar, so I would have a rough understanding of the actual language, and it gets into verbals and it gets into a lot of different things that is going on with the language, and this would be a great reference tool if you're new to Hebrew. Next one. Uh, Biblical reference grammar. Yeah, this is going to give you all kinds of information on verbs that you're going to encounter that are more going to be. It's going to give you all the other stuff, but it's also going to give you other information about it. And I use this to find nuances of to the various things, nuances as well as how I am to understand the various stems. This one right here is the glossary. So Logos Bible Software has a built-in glossary of every lemma, everything you can imagine in either Greek or Hebrew. And if you look at it in this glossary, so if I were to break this down, so they get into Greek. So here's everything in Greek that you would get into. And they also have the Hebrew. So what's going to be in the Hebrew and the Aramaic is these different stems. Like if I go into that the hifil, it's going to explain the hifil and the hofal and the itbael and all these other ones. So when you are this is going to talk more about those things, and this is a helpful resource just to keep available as you're going through Hebrew. Next, another great resource is Hebrew Syntax by Davidson. Wonderful resource. It's going to give you a lot on. This is going to touch more on syntax, but there's this section on verbs here that can be very helpful to understand. Lastly, we have this one right here. I believe this is a biblical reference guide. I think it's, yeah. It gets into a lot. So in the verb section, which is the one, so it gets into the syntax, the various prepositions. I know this was a lot longer, but I hope this was helpful. I hope that that this can help you to dive deeper into your Old Testament. You have a wonderful, wonderful